Hello everyone, welcome to Functional Nurse Academy Graduate Feature. For more information about Functional Nurse Academy, be sure to go to functionalnurseacademy.com. And here's your host, Nurse Melissa.
Welcome to the Functional Nurse Academy Graduate Feature. During this show, I love to spotlight the incredible journey of nurses who have transformed the way that they practice and also their mindset through the lens of functional medicine. My name is Melissa Schreidfatter, and I am the founder of the Functional Nurse Academy and Christian Functional Medicine Academy. In today's episode, I'm going to be sitting down with one of our amazing graduates and hear how she is using functional medicine and using her own independent business to change lives and redefine what it means to be a nurse in today's world. Welcome, Kerri. It is so great to have you here today.
Yes, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I was so excited to hear that one of your specialties is weight loss, because I just feel like there's so many areas we see in healthcare where individuals are being underserved. But this is one of the populations that is just so falling through the cracks. And again, you know, with issues with weight loss resistance and things like that, it's multifactorial. There's so many things going on. So I'm so glad to see another nurse specializing in this, but I'm always curious, nurses that go through the conventional training and then they're like, okay, something's not right here. And then they end up specializing in functional medicine. What was it that really changed how you practice? Like what happened to make you interested in a functional approach?
Yeah, well, first of all, with conventional medicine, after being in the healthcare field for over 30 years, it wasn't until I went through the program and I really began to look at the way that I even practiced myself. I thought, wow, we're so good at telling others what to do, but if they're not interested in it, then they're never going to make that change in their life. So that was eye-opening. And then how I chose my focus for weight loss services is I struggled my entire life with weight loss. It just seems as if after I graduated high school, the weight just kept coming. And I just continued to gain weight, and I would hear from the doctors, eat less, exercise more. Well, of course, I would do that. I would try everything that anybody ever offered me. I tried that. So I knew my own struggle with weight loss and the struggle that I had to go through and the journey. And I know after working in the healthcare field, of course, I know you meet so many others, you know, that are having the same struggle. So I knew that I wanted to share my story, my struggles, because I mean, there's so many of us that are going through the same thing, and you know that I could help with that.
Yes, and I really think that is such a powerful experience. And I hear this time and time again from nurses. They have a personal health struggle and they're able to have improvements doing a more holistic approach, or someone that they are close to, like a family member that they love. And then once you see healing come on the other side using approaches that are not mainstream and not conventional, you cannot just unsee it. So, so now when it comes to things like weight loss, so are there any deficits that, I know that you said that a lot of the providers were just telling you the same thing: exercise more, eat less. But again, as functional medicine nurses, we know it is ever so much more complex than that. So could you share some, let our audience know what all are the strategies that are being used in the conventional medicine model for weight loss?
Okay. Well, let me back up and share a little bit too about my story and the struggles that are the what I actually tried throughout my walk and journey. First of all, in my 20s, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and I was put on blood pressure medication, in my 20s because of, being overweight. Of course, that's what you're told, and everything out of balance. There's the high fat, what are the Atkins diet. I tried, the low carbs, increase your water, fasting, and I know they have, all of these things can be good. uh I tried probably every diet pill. I tried the GLPs. I mean, uh, I've tried everything. Um, I can remember, um, even being desperate to lose weight. I had already lost some weight, but it would always come back. The weight would always come back after I tried every program. If you stop doing that, or eventually the weight came back. And so I can remember going to a very popular program. I won't say the name. They did do some lab work, but they said, try this pill, you'll lose the weight. Took the pill. Probably within 2 weeks, I noticed my stomach just was really bloated. I was so bloated. I was very tired, fatigued, didn't want to get up out of bed. Um, and I thought, what is wrong? Until finally I went to my practitioner, and my liver enzymes were so elevated. It was as if he said, "Are you sure you don't drink alcohol?" No, I don't drink alcohol. He said, "Well, your liver enzymes are as high as somebody that was on an alcohol binge." And he said, "We don't know if your liver's going to recover from this." Well, that also began to shift my mindset, because I'm like, I'm taking everything that somebody throws at me because I'm so desperate, and I'm not even researching it, you know. So I know what people are going through, and I'm desperate for that weight loss. And the same was for me until, um, and I had got up to 330 pounds in my own journey. So it's not only that you're desperate to lose weight, you begin to pull away from that community. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to see anybody or run into anybody. You're ashamed, you're humiliated, you're embarrassed, you're short of breath, you're winded, you can't really do anything. And that was when my daughter was younger. And so she missed out on her mom being able to be there with her doing all of that because I was so ashamed and embarrassed. Well, after going through so many things, it was probably in 2015. I can remember sitting there, and I know it was the Lord that said, "Do you love yourself?" And it was so loud in my mind that I just came to a halt and a stop, and it got my attention. And I was like, "Kerri, do you love yourself?" And I was like, "I don't even know if I like myself right now, much less love myself." And so that's truly where my journey began, which is a scary feeling. I mean, because when you've got to start digging on the inside of things that's going on and what you grew up hearing about yourself and everything, that can be very scary. So that's where my journey began. And as I began to shift my mindset and my wording, instead of being self-critical of myself and hating myself, I had to learn to love myself before things began to shift on the outside. And the more that I accepted and loved myself, my focus wasn't even on the weight. My focus began to be on loving myself the proper way. And as I began to love myself, then things just I began to love exercise, and it wasn't a painful thing. I began to want to just do more things. And as that began to happen, then I just began to lose weight without that even being the main focus. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It's so beautiful. And I think it's really important with functional medicine, mind, body, spirit. There is
Yes.
so much evidence. There is more evidence out there, scientific evidence of a soul, then there is not evidence. And then I hear this frequently about, I mean, there really are so many people that have these kind of, supernatural encounters. I've heard from several people that really believed that they heard God. But how people describe it to me is they say that it is a non-audible voice, and it's almost like a thought that was put into their head that did
Yes.
not come from them. How would you describe that when you heard that question? Do you love yourself?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about my weight or doing anything. I was just my normal routine throughout the day. And all of a sudden, that's the way I would describe it. Like a thought crosses your mind. And, it just brought me to a standstill because that thought just came out of nowhere. I wasn't thinking about that or anything, and it just brought me to a stop. It wasn't an audible voice, but it did, if it makes sense, sound so loud in my mind that it got my attention, to stop and think about that. So yeah, that's how I would describe that.
And I'm also curious, do you remember when you had that encounter, what you were doing? And I'm curious if you, because, and in the Bible, it tells us all the time that we find the Lord in silence, and I really think that it is this very, very busy lifestyle with people like constantly being on their phones and constantly doing other things. And there's all this chatter that I think a lot of people cannot get in tune to the Lord. So do you remember what you were doing on that day?
I think I was just cleaning the house, going through cleaning the
Yeah.
house. And I'm sure because my mindset and my thoughts were so negative toward myself,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I was just complaining about my weight. Like I've tried everything, I've done everything, and I don't know what to do. And as I was cleaning the house, and then like, because I can remember just stopping in my living room when I heard that. So,
So I interviewed, her name is Jessica Roman, and this is like a young mother of a child that they told her was critically ill. And she had a similar encounter where the Lord guided her on what to do to help to heal her daughter. And her daughter had a miraculous recovery, and it was geared towards dietary, like very specific dietary changes. Actually, it was the GAPS diet. But and this is one of the reasons too. It is absolutely on my assessment form when I am signing anyone into my program. I ask them if they have a religious or spiritual preference, because if they are a believer in God, and we know this as believers, if you incorporate this into their plan, it really doesn't, because it's not only is this going to help to give them purpose, but we know in this world, we cannot do everything ourselves and we
yes.
need help. And I know I can really relate to just like the psychological stress of ruminating on things. I mean, for me, my natural self, I am not the most forgiving person. I have to ask Jesus to help intervene with that. And I had some things I was holding on to, and it was just like, I really think it was making me physically ill. And I put a Bible verse up in my house to remind me to forgive. And then after seeing that every day, I noticed I was like, I'm able to let things go now, which is it's not natural for me to do that. So it is, that supernatural presence of God that when we invite him, when we're open to that relationship with him, I mean, he is our lamp through this fallen world that we live in. So I think that that is so wonderful that
Yes.
you had an experience with God that led you down the right path, because again, like when you mentioned that, that's a really scary going to the doctor and they're like, we don't know if your liver's going to recover. And we know as nurses, this is an issue in medicine where patients are given things and not properly informed about the side effect
Yes.
profile. So now what kind of experiences have you had as far as with your weight loss? Like, where are you now? And also, how was your liver? Did your liver recover from that?
Actually, praise God, my liver
Okay,
completely
good.
recovered within 2 weeks. Actually, they said actually that was a miracle in itself. They've never seen the liver recover because my numbers were so high. Uh, but now, I mean, actually, now I love myself. Am I the perfect weight? If you look at what the doctors say you should weigh and no, I'm not. But I look at my health and I don't focus on my weight, number one. And I look at just what actually, I look at rest more than I do, striving and doing, and just going because rest is so important. So I also notice when I do the stress relaxation, when I learn to be quiet and be still, when I do the stretching, then that actually helps me to enjoy life more to where I want to do the weightlifting, the strength exercise. I want to walk. I want to eat right then because that to me, I think that just brings all your hormones into balance when you're able to rest, and you're not constantly striving or making yourself go. Also, we know, cortisol, I mean, it affects almost every system in our body. And I'm doing some workshops called Beyond Survival Mode, and we're just breaking it down into different categories. And one of the things in my study about stress and cortisol was even with criticism, and I was very good about criticizing myself and everything and not ever being good enough, that increases our cortisol level in our body, which then throws everything out of balance, So I still have to work on that if I was honest, and for myself, not it wants to try to come up where I just criticize myself for, whatever reason, nitpicking myself. But now I just try to look in the mirror and love who I am, and what I'm becoming and who I am right now. So,
And it's so true that our thoughts, they matter. And that is one of the reasons when I talk about, when I teach the 8 foundations of wellness, that we've got to work with people on their emotional slash spiritual health. Because again, like, if you are eating a perfect diet and you're exercising and you're buying every like wellness gadget that there is, but you have this consistent like negative commentary going on in your mind all of the time, like we've really got to break that
yeah,
cycle. And what I think is so promising is we're learning now about neuroplasticity and that you can actually change these patterns. I mean, it's really miraculous. And so, and how are you feeling today with your health journey? I know that you mentioned that you were able to change that mindset and start loving
yes.
yourself to where it's like you want to go and do all these good things for your body. So where are you now with that journey?
Well, now, I love myself. Actually, I rest and take time for myself too. It's not always just uh, performance driven and just, you got to go, you've got to do this. The advice that I would give a friend, I take for myself also. It's so easy to give somebody else advice and not take that for ourselves, and not care for our own bodies. So also, I exercise. I try to choose the right foods, not always, but in my journey with the weight loss, also, um, I would beat myself up if I chose to take a bite of a piece of cake or eat a piece of cake. It was like, then I would criticize myself for doing that. Well, now, I'm like, it's okay. Kerri, do you really want this piece of cake? Yeah, I really want it. Do you know that what it's going to do? Yeah, I'm probably not going to feel so great afterwards. Maybe I'll just take half of it or whatever. But I'm forgiving to myself. You mentioned forgiveness. I forgive, like, yes, I'm going to choose that. And because my choice, I don't criticize myself. I don't beat myself up. So in that, I noticed before, if you criticize yourself for making a choice, you will criticize yourself over that one choice all day long or for the entire week. So now I'm just yes, I choose this piece of cake and I choose it, I eat it, and the choice is done, it's over with, but I'm not living in that regret. I'm not living in that cycle where I'm constantly condemning myself for making that choice. Because when you do, I feel like you get in that cycle of where you make another wrong choice. Oh, I might as well just give up. Or I might as well just stop. It doesn't even matter. Let me start my diet tomorrow. Let's just cancel today and start tomorrow. So it's also learning in that moment, you make that decision on what's best for you and your health. So the same for me, is just making those decisions and being forgiving of myself over the piece of cake I ate or whatever decision that is.
Yes. And, stress, I say this all the time, stress will literally kill you. Okay. So
Yes.
getting the stress response, it is so important to get the stress response under control. And I also wanted to speak a little bit to these. I don't want to be too negative. I feel like I'm negative about conventional medicine and I talk about what's wrong with functional medicine. But when I was going through what I like to call my functional medicine nightmare, because as you guys know, I went to many holistic providers. I didn't have the best experience with everyone, finally found a good one, but I had functional providers that when I was real sick, which was undiagnosed Lyme disease, they were putting me on these highly restrictive diets. I mean, I'm talking no gluten, no dairy, no legumes, no coffee, no chocolate, no seeds, no nuts, no nightshade vegetables. Basically, like you can't really eat anything. And that diet is so ridiculous. It is so hard to follow. And then if heaven forbid, I had a handful of seeds or something, I would be down on myself about it. And that diet caused so much psychological stress and disordered eating. And then it's like that diet wasn't going to help me anyway because I had rampant undiagnosed Lyme disease. So I wanted to ask when you went through this journey, did you ever have providers recommend to you diets that were like so restrictive that it just added on to your stress response?
Oh yeah, I felt the diets they would put you on, you just number one, you just felt defeated already. But I would try it because I was desperate. And so like I said, every diet that's ever came out, I have tried, but and they would suggest the diet, but there was never, I guess because accountability is so big, and I don't want to come down on conventional medicine either, but because they have there is need for conventional medicine, of course, and they're so busy, but there was never follow up. You would be placed on a diet, but you felt that's the reason for my name One Together is I felt so alone. Like people would constantly suggest things, but I felt by myself and all alone. So that's the reason why I chose One Together is because I wanted people to know that you're not by yourself in this walk and this journey. You have someone that you can reach out to and call, and we're in this together, hand in hand. And actually, um, the vision I got was because I'm a Christian, is Peter in the boat. And as he began to sink and Jesus just reached out his hand, and grabbed him, that's what I see with One Together. As you begin to feel like your journey's coming to an end and you don't know which way to turn and what to do, I want you to know that I will help you and grab your hand and walk with you in this journey. You're not by yourself and not alone. And you had asked me before, in my health, how else it helped me, because my mindset began to change and I began to see the weight going, maybe not as quick as I wanted it to, but I didn't focus. It didn't run my life anymore. I enjoyed my life, and if the weight began to go, that was great side effect, but I was able to come off the blood pressure medication, and my blood pressure's been under control for years now. And just this year, and actually my medical provider did help me and agree to this. I didn't just go cold turkey on my own, but I was able to come off the thyroid medication. And when I went back for my 6-month follow-up on all of my labs, actually, because I had low iron also, and just some things, losing hair, thinning, and all that. Her and my beautician is like, your hair's thickening up, and all of my lab work was in perfect range. She said that this is amazing. My practitioner was like, this is amazing. Your lab work, everything's perfect and fine. And no, I wouldn't suggest going back on the thyroid medication. So, it's just, I guess I feel very blessed and accomplished in my own life, in doing that. But um, I don't know what to say. I feel blessed. I feel accomplished. I feel like that. I guess I got things in my life. I wasn't even looking for that. I wasn't even at first looking for that, but also out there, everything didn't happen all at once. It was a journey. It was a walk. It was a process in that.
And it is such an achievement when people are going through chronic health issues, being able to come off of these medications. And
Yes.
again, like what you mentioned before, we don't want conventional medicine to just disappear. I certainly want to
Yes.
have people working at the hospital if, heaven forbid, I get hit by a bus, which, knock on wood, will not happen. But anyway, the way that system is set up, we know they shine when it comes to critical care and emergencies, but it's not set up for them to spend enough time with people with the chronic health issues. And then also, being a nurse, you don't typically see people be able to just come off of their medications and that conventional system. We know how it goes. They start on one medication, and then that medication's probably going to cause side effects, and they need to go on another medicine. And then you have someone in the hospital because maybe they had a stroke or something. And what is on their hospital tray? It's probably a piece of chocolate cake and a Coke and some pizza, and they just feed them trash food in the hospital. So there's so much stuff that just doesn't make any sense. But this is very like in that system. I remember when I was working inpatient, when you see your patients, you notice that every time you see them, they're a little worse or they're on a little bit more medication. And then on the flip side, being functional now, every time I see these people, they're getting a little better. And it's just the best thing ever. And we are about to cut to break. And I do want to remind our listeners, if you are a nurse and you are sick and tired of the sick care system, I can help you through Functional Nurse Academy. We offer the most comprehensive training on the market, specifically designed for nurses to get them trained and prepared to launch their concierge functional medicine services. All of our graduates get 90 nursing CEUs, practitioner toolkit, social media and marketing kit, and then I even give all of our students 6 months for free of the FNA monthly mentorship program. So if you want to learn more about that, go to functionalnurseacademy.com. Hello, and welcome back to the Nurses Report. This is Melissa Schreibfatter, and I am joined today by a fellow functional medicine nurse and Functional Nurse Academy graduate, Kerri Takata, who, after experiencing her own transformational healing journey with weight loss, she opened up a practice called One Together Coaching and Consulting, where she is using her experience and now her skill set as a very experienced registered nurse, over 30 years of experience, combined with all of her functional medicine and coaching training to really serve the population of individuals struggling with weight loss and other chronic health conditions. Welcome back, Kerri.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always so great to connect. I love chatting with other like-minded nurses because there's just so much to talk about. And I did want to ask you about your experience with the Functional Nurse Academy. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, actually, at the time, I was going through a holistic nurse coaching program, and I had a friend that told me about your program. And functional medicine is something that I was always looking into, and actually looking into it for my own health journey, as a patient. And so I decided, wow, this would be a great benefit to add to the holistic coaching, But as I just began to dig into the program after signing up, I just got so interested in how functional medicine just gets down to the root issues and everything. And so, like all the books that you suggested, I hadn't read all of them, but I bought all of them. But just because there's so much, there's so much out there, there's so much information. And as I dig in, it's just so interesting and how things are tied to things and how they work in your body, and just like I was saying, get down to the root issues. So yeah, I decided to sign up just to increase my own knowledge and awareness in how functional medicine works. And I'm so glad that I did, because you can help so many people. So many people. There's actually just had someone in a different state just reach out to me, and just ran some lab work on her. Uh, but it just feels so good to be able to help them. And so, and just to understand the difference in conventional medicine and functional medicine, and how to even get down to the root of things. Because after being a nurse for 30 years, I really truly didn't understand it until going through your program. A lot of things you just operate how conventional medicine trains you to operate. So your program really helped me to understand not everything that I learned in conventional medicine was correct or good for our bodies. So thank you for Functional Nurse Academy. Thank you. And thank you for educating people who are interested in that. I would highly suggest getting your program.
Thank you. And I really do believe it is a God thing. Like, I think that God wants to use the nurses to help to heal our nation because, I mean,
Yes.
people are so sick and miserable. And, I remember when I was really sick, I feel like I missed out in the first 3 years of my son's life because I was chronically ill. And it took me 3 years to find a good provider to help me because there's so many people that, may have good intentions, but they just don't understand root causes. And then you have other people that maybe started with good intentions, but then lost their way and stopped practicing with integrity. But I also would love to hear about how Functional Nurse Academy helped with your practice.
Helped what? Sorry.
How Functional Nurse Academy helped with your practice.
Oh, how it helped with my practice. Well, it helped me to be able to offer more services, because, of course, we've been talking about mindset and everything, but of course, with weight loss, and there are things like your hormones, it allows you to be able to do the functional health assessment to get to the root cause, because you've been living with the weight loss, but things in your hormones out of balance, or there could be lab work. So functional medicine allows you to get to the root cause. So it's allowed me to offer those services to people that want that, which digs in a little deeper than, because you may have things going on in your body that hadn't been uncovered yet. So it allows you to basically uncover areas within the functional medicine, and such as your hormone. I keep bringing up your hormones, but it could go deeper than your hormones, but within your lab work, it allows me to be able to offer those services.
Yes. And I think that things like health coaching are wonderful, but there are so many labs out there, guys, that because of the confines of insurance, and also, I mean, we have more advanced testing that a lot of individuals are not even being told is an option, and they're not being offered it at a traditional, primary care provider's office, because it's usually insurance that is dictating the care that individual can have. That as functional nurses, we are operating outside of that insurance system. And there are ways to offer labs in a way that is affordable. And I'm also curious because, when I created Functional Nurse Academy, I really wanted to put together, like I hear from nurses that are like, I spent $5, $10, $15, $20,000 on a program, and now I blew my budget. And I wanted to create like just an economical option for you all. And my goal with this is to provide a program that will basically pay for itself. I want you guys to be able to have this skill set and the business skills to turn this into a profitable business. And I wanted to ask, with your return on investment from taking Functional Nurse Academy, did you get your return on investment back after taking the program?
Yeah, and I just want to say that I actually just finished the program like around the 1st of August, but since then I actually have made the money back that I put into the program. And actually, in saying that, still, when I started the program, I had a full-time employer, and my employer actually paid for the program for me, for the functional medicine program. So, but I have made that back, that money back.
Oh, wonderful. So, and that is another thing, because I feel like nurses we are so mistreated in the system, guys. And that was another thing I was kind of like, okay, if I get this program approved for nursing CEs, a lot of employers have benefits for nurses when they go and they take CE programs. So that's something else we do frequently. We do this all the time. It's like writing these reimbursement letters. So I'm that's awesome that your employer covered it.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't know that when you took the program that you were full time. So,
Yes.
how long from when you were, full time employee in the system were you able to exit the system after finishing Functional Nurse Academy and getting your business up and going? Like how long was it until you were independent from the system?
I mean, because that was my choice, just to do that probably within 3 months. So I was able to do that, but that was my choice. I could have stayed in the system, but yeah, I made the choice just to work on the coaching business because I saw there was such a need. And speaking of, I want to go back on the functional medicine, the labs, and just the way that our medical system is in general. I mean, and this is just coming from me, not Melissa. I just feel with my own experience and seeing things, and with people close to me and my family, I've just seen the healthcare system beginning to fail people. And so I believe this is a God thing also, is God trying to get nurses in position. So I would encourage anyone listening to this program to definitely sign up if you haven't, because, you know, your family and people next to you really need these services, functional medicine services. But in my walk and journey, you know, just in your personal life, as I'm traveling and as I'm meeting people, the biggest thing that I personally have heard that I'm hearing from people is they can't afford health insurance because it's so expensive. You know, they don't want to go to a conventional medicine physician because they've had such bad experience, you know, and feel like there's no help there. But what they're missing is their labs, is that they just want to be able to go somewhere and have their lab work done, and they don't want to go to a conventional medicine. Now, that's what I've experienced, you know, but you're able to offer that, which is such a huge blessing to be able to offer that. Now, do I tell them you know, some things they still need a provider? You know, I don't tell them to, no, don't see a provider. You know, I still encourage them to have that primary care physician or nurse practitioner in position just in case you do need them. But it is nice to be able to offer the labs, you know, to send even to their providers. So.
Yes, and for our listeners, and I have a combination. I have a ton of nurses that listen to this. I also have other people who are not in healthcare but are interested in holistic wellness. And there are ways, if you are not a nurse practitioner, that you actually can order labs for your clients. It's done through a partnership with a laboratory where you can actually order under the MD. And then as functional nurses, you know, we're both registered nurses, not nurse practitioners, meaning we cannot diagnose you or
Right.
treat you, but we can use that laboratory data to look at potential patterns of dysfunction, use that data as education to help them to uncover what could be some potential root causes. And then if there's a medical need, then we can reach out to your primary care provider and advocate. But I remember when I was, you know, I'm like, well, one of the diseases that I had. So I also have hypothyroidism from undiagnosed Hashimoto's, the autoimmune condition that's causing like 90% of the hypothyroid cases in the country. But do conventional medical providers know to just screen people for thyroid antibodies? No, they don't. So for years, they were like, well, your labs are fine, but you're developing hypothyroidism. We'll just keep an eye on it. So they basically waited until my thyroid broke and then gave me a thyroid hormone. But anyway, the lab I needed to help me find out that I had Hashimoto's, which I now have under control. It was actually an easy process to get it under control. That lab was a $14 out of pocket, not even using insurance test. And I remember thinking, I was like, if I just had like a nurse or someone that could review my labs and make sure I was getting the right labs and make sure that they were actually in optimal range, that could have prevented me from having to be on thyroid hormone. I mean, you know, and again, some people are able to get off of it. My thyroid got so bad that it's just like not functional anymore. So I have to be on full replacement. But yeah, I think it really is such an asset. And, you know, we are so well equipped for this, because just think about with patients. A lot of times patients can kind of get intimidated by physicians. And also, I feel like with nurses, we're the ones that spend the most time with our patients anyway. And sometimes with like personal things, patients are more comfortable talking to the nurse about it than the physician. So we can do all of the education and the coaching, and then we know how to advocate, you know. I mean, we're like the best advocates and coaches. So I'm so glad to hear that you've been able to you know, use your experience and now your new skill set to be able to serve your population well. And I would love to hear more about your practice. So I know you specialize in weight loss cases. Are there other specialties that you work with? Did you work with mainly everyone, but then that's your specialty?
I'll work with anyone, but my specialty, of course, is the weight loss, and then adding the functional medicine. There are some people who just want the functional medicine or holistic coaching, but to me, it ends up being, they're all interrelated, because you are looking at the whole person, to see exactly what is best for that person. So I will work with anybody, but of course, mainly my clients are women, end up being women, so I want to back up also to something I just want to add on as a nurse. I don't know if Melissa, you find this also, but I find nurses are very detailed, and because we work with the patient and more, and we're with that patient more, we really want to get to the root of what is bothering that patient or what's going on in that patient. So I know personally myself, and I know you, Melissa, I find myself just digging in deeper as to what's going on with that specific person, just because I want to make sure that whatever area that person is struggling with, that we're doing exactly what that patient needs and hitting the exact area of what each patient needs. I don't know if you find yourself doing that too,
So with nurses, and also we're so trained to do this because when we are in that clinical setting, we are double checking everything because we are
Yes.
the ones that are the last line to the patient. And so if say that you're working in the hospital system and the pharmacy makes an error or the physician makes an error and you go and you give that incorrect dose to the patient, that's on you, because you're the last line. So we are the ones, we're kind of like the mama birds. We're double checking everything. The good nurses have really good attention to detail. So I think that's another reason why we're so well placed in this. And I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've noticed this with patients that, well, I like to call them clients because I think that patient just has that, like chronic illness feeling and we want to be all about wellness. But I've had individuals that have been suffering with what they thought was a condition. And then I go through their medications and I'm like, are you aware that this is a known serious adverse reaction of this medication that you're on? And then the provider missed it. Have you seen cases like that too?
Yes. Yes. Plenty. I mean, yeah, patient and yeah, there's patient come all the time, and they're naming these symptoms. And as soon as we look at their medication, there's a lot of medications that's interacting with each other, or that one medication had a high, side effect of that symptom that person is experiencing, and then of course, that physician did order that medication. You just educate that patient, to inform their physician, or you send that letter to the physician.
Yes, yes. And another thing, so I'm at your website right now, and oh my goodness, I just love this. So onetogethercoaching.com, and you have this so beautifully written out. I mean, I can tell that you spent a lot of time on this and this came from the heart. You put, you may be struggling with thyroid issues, insulin resistance, nutrient deficiencies, yay, metabolism problems, chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalances, poor sleep, gut problems, weight gain, and other diseases. And I love that you are thinking about all of those things because, again, I really do believe that God has so brilliantly and intricately designed our bodies, but He designed us to consume the foods that He also created that are biologically needed for our bodily functions.
Yes.
And I like that you mentioned nutrient deficiencies because, when we look at like thyroid disorders, hormonal imbalances, your thyroid and your hormones need these nutrient and mineral precursors to function properly. And it's kind of shocking well, not shocking, I expect it now, but so much of the conventional medical model, I mean, they just don't recognize this. So I did
Yes.
want to ask with, because I could tell just by your website, and talking to you, you are so detailed oriented. Do you have like a success story of a client that you've worked with that you would like to share?
Um, Well, I just want to preface this first is, I've had several people ask me about lab work with functional medicine. And one of the things that hit me that I actually share also is the ranges, the standard range versus the optimal range. Actually, had I been told when I was younger about the optimal range, as being within that range and not the broad range that we operate within our United States medical field, um, we would have known to be working on that, or we would have been at least had awareness that something is falling out of this optimal range, and to work on that or to at least be aware of it. And I would have made better choices in my life. But probably, we have not, I haven't, with the functional medicine lab, I'm working with a few clients that we're still, trying to see what exactly the root cause of their issues is. But probably the biggest success story that I would have is there's been several women that I've worked with that, how do I put it? They stay so busy with their life that they feel guilty. As women, we stay so busy taking care of others, we don't take care of ourselves. So them bringing those women into awareness that they need to rest and that it's okay to rest and that it's not to feel guilty because you do rest. Because if you don't rest, then everything in your body does, get out of balance and out of whack, which causes, chronic disease and illnesses in our body. So probably the biggest successful story in my life is, there's a few women that I've worked with that where they've had to learn to love themselves also, but also learn that it's okay for them to rest and it's okay for them to schedule time for themselves to be by themselves away from the family in order to bring their own body back into balance and rest for themselves in order to you know fight chronic disease or sicknesses in their own bodies.
And it also, because I also like to, for my clients who are believers of the Christian faith, I like
Yeah.
to also implement a lot of biblical principles because
Mhm.
it is so amazing the wisdom of the Bible and how much of that now is being scientifically validated. Like we know that things like unforgiveness, there's actual a physiological negative impact on the body when we're holding on to anger and resentment and things like that. And then we also know that there are health benefits to prayer, meditation, fasting, and also the Sabbath. He says to rest on the seventh day. And how many of us are actually taking that like 1 day per week break? And I see this with women. And again, as a mother with three children and two of them being babies, like it, it is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And a lot of times these women, they put everyone ahead of themselves, which I totally get that and I understand it. But, for your children to thrive and for your family to thrive, um, if mom is chronically ill, then the whole house is going to fall apart. So like we've got to take care of mom and people, I think the coaching really can help with that because we need help with the behavioral changes. It is one thing because we all know what we should be doing. We all know we should be resting and taking care of ourselves and
Yes.
exercising, eating well, all of those good things. But we live in this world that we constantly have these like distractions and temptations and all of these electronics that are buzzing all the time. So I love that you um, are really providing these ongoing coaching programs. Because again, like we can help people in like one visit, but are you really going to make an impact and be able to coach them and then be able to help them find the underlying root causes in one visit? No.
No.
So with your coaching programs, about how long are they? Like say that you start with a new client, how long do you typically work with them at first?
Well, I do work with them because there's so much that plays into, what that client needs to when we meet for the first time, because, sometimes finances is an issue. So I work with them, but you also, it depends on how motivated that person is also. But I have 3 month, 6 month, and 1 year program. But then I also made a flex package, and that flexible package is just based on what is going on in that person's life and what works for them. But we still have a start and end date because you don't want to make a flex date to where, you know, sometimes when you don't have that accountability, it's easy to back out. So we do have accountability and then we just come up with a flex package and what works. And what I mean by that is, for one person, they might want to meet an hour and a half versus an hour for every 2 weeks instead of weekly, so we just come up with a package and a plan that works for them. And right now, like I have someone on a 5 month plan, and we meet every 2 weeks for an hour and a half versus weekly for an hour for 3 months or something.
I love the idea of a flex plan. And, I have had, some individuals that are stay-at-home moms. I have had individuals that are like high level executives and they're like, I can't commit to that much of an appointment. So we may be doing more like email correspondence, but really meeting them where they're at. Because again, like we are all unique individuals. One thing that might work for one person may not work for the next person. But, and also, when I was talking earlier about Functional Nurse Academy and really wanting my students to get that return on investment, I feel like this is very similar too with the functional medicine and coaching clients that we are serving. Because, if you're able to help someone uncover things that could be going on that may be contributing to diseases, when we zoom out and we look at that big picture, I mean,
Yes.
working with a highly skilled functional nurse may, you can't even put a number on that if we're able to work on preventing or even reversing certain disease processes. When you look at the cost of like, suffering, early disability, early mortality. And it's just, it really is like a beautiful thing when we can help people feel better. But then also, like, if your services end up tremendously benefiting them in a way that's going to decrease their overall healthcare costs. And
Yes, definitely.
so I also see that you offer payment plans. I love that. And also FSAs and HSA cards. I think that like the FSAs and HSAs are wonderful because it is unfortunate. Even though functional medicine is evidence-based, guys, like we know, like this is like well known in the literature that it decreases healthcare costs, improves, patient outcomes, but a lot of insurance companies still don't want to cover these types of services. So again,
Yes.
a lot of people have to go outside of that system to get high quality care. And I see that you're located in the wonderful state of Tennessee. I'm biased because I live in Tennessee, but you're in Chattanooga. Do you see clients virtually as well? Like, can you see individuals out of state?
Yeah, I see personally and virtually. So yeah, I have some clients that are out of state now. So I'm able to offer that. I also will offer workshops or community outreaches also and group and one-on-one coaching.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, and I think it's great to have just a variety of different services. And I also, I tell my students so frequently, I'm like, okay, but after you master, you must master it first, but like after you master one-on-one, branch out to group services because there's so many more people that you can serve that way. And then you add in that community aspect. So, well, great. Well, okay, if someone wants to work with you, because I know that we have listeners that are going to want to get on a call with you. I see that you do a free discovery call. So
Yes.
is that something, and I can share that in the show notes too, if someone wants to book a call with you. I see you have your phone number listed on the website. I could just like link your website
Yeah.
to the show notes. And is that the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yes, they can call 423-777-6597 to contact me. Or if you go to the website, onetogethercoaching.com, then on the contact us page, you can leave your name, email address, and your phone number, and I can contact you that way also.
Awesome. Okay. And what about social? Can they follow you on social too?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So you can look up One Together Coaching and Consulting on Facebook, and Instagram, One Together Co on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to go to Instagram and follow you. So, well, it was so great to do this show with you. And again, to our listeners, if you yourself, if you're struggling with some type of chronic health issue, if you know someone that is, feel free to check out Kerri's website. And also, if you are a nurse or another practitioner that is listening, we can get out there and make an impact. I mean, nurses are doing this all across the country. There is a demand for highly skilled functional medicine practitioners. So I do want to remind our listeners before we end the show for today, because I hear from my FNA graduates all the time that were like, Melissa, I have a friend that's a pharmacist or an RT or a health coach, and they want to train with you. I did create our sister program. So we do have a sister program for all other healthcare specialties and certified health and wellness coaches. And that is Christian Functional Medicine Academy. And you can find that website at christianfma.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Functional Nurse Academy graduate feature. If this conversation inspired you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow nurse who may be ready to level up in their career. If you want to be our next success story, feel free to visit functionalnurseacademy.com. If you are not a nurse, if you're in another healthcare specialty, I can train you as well. So go to christianfma.com for that training program. And until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless.
This was brought to you by Functional Nurse Academy. For more information, please visit functionalnurseacademy.com.